Good evening, everyone. My name is John, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's program, Sweet and Sour Inspirations, presented in partnership with the Chinook Country Historical Society and the Calgary Public Library here. So to begin with, in the good way, in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and acknowledge that this program is taking place in Calgary, Wilkinsis, located on the land where the Elbow and the Bow Rivers meet. Located in Treaty 7 territory, which includes the ancestral lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Aihe Nakota, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations, and the Dene people of the Tsuut'ina Nation, and is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. Sorry for tongue-tying that last one there. And it's important that we start off in that way. So the duration of this program is an hour and a half. We have muted everyone, but feel comfortable to leave your cameras on if you'd like. And we encourage you to ask questions, just doing that through the chat feature, so that little speech bubble at the bottom. And we also have enabled closed captioning tonight. So if you would like to use those, go to the bottom taskbar or wherever the taskbar shows up on the device you're using and look for the CC button. If you press that, then you'll be able to access the closed captions. And I'd now like to introduce Jackie Kleiner, the president of the Chinook Country Historical Society. Jackie.
Thank you, John. Welcome, everybody. And thank you for coming to our final presentation, virtual presentation in our winter spring series. I wanted to mention that Historic Calgary Week will happen this year. It is scheduled for July 23rd, excuse me, until August the 1st. And you will find information about that upcoming on our chinookhistory.ca website by the middle of June. And that will be an exciting virtual and in-person event of a number of different presentations in and around Calgary. We also want to let you know that our monthly programs will start up again in the fall in September, and it is our plan to do those in person at the Calgary Public Library. And of course, the Calgary Public Library is always such a great partner to us. And so we want to thank them again for hosting all the virtual presentations they have this year and assisting us with all the technical assistance that they do. So I want to note that this is Asian Heritage Month, and it is very appropriate that we have our speaker, Dale Lee Kwong, presenting to us tonight. And I'd like to introduce Dale. And I also want to thank all the people that helped her to make this presentation possible. So Dale Lee Kwong writes poetry, plays, and creative nonfiction. She is a third-generation Chinese Canadian. Her work explores Chinese Canadian history, diversity and inclusion, adoption, LGBTQ+ issues, and Dale is passionate about the importance of Chinatowns across North America and the fight to save them from gentrification. She's been very active in the Chinatown here in Calgary and the plans for redevelopment. Dale plans to keep writing about the past and the present in hopes of shaping the future. So her presentation is very appropriate for Chinook Country Historical Society to present. So thank you, and over to you, Dale.
Thank you, Jackie. I just realized I printed part of my script I was reusing paper, so part of this is actually covered up, but I'll ad-lib for you. Thank you to Chinook Country Historical Society. In particular, I want to send a shout out to Sarah Harvey, who does their social media, and she's been posting on Instagram, I think Twitter, I don't know because I'm not on Twitter, and definitely on Facebook. And of course, our friends at Calgary Public Library, John McBurney and Catherine Yucken, who are helping me tonight. In addition to the land acknowledgement, I'd like to send out my own personal land acknowledgement, recognizing that I am a Treaty 7 person And I send a special shout out to Michelle Thrust. She is the artistic director of Making Treaty 7. There we go. That's the logo of a t-shirt they gave me last summer. And Making Treaty 7 is Calgary's Indigenous theater company. And in addition to sharing my story with the participants in a creation residency they had, they invited me to mentor an up-and-coming emerging writer, Yan Zhu. Sorry, Yan. And from that program, they created a film called, and I hope I don't say this wrong, Istosis. And it's a wonderful film. I saw it at the Globe recently. And it's going to be playing all summer long from June to September in the theater at Fort Calgary. And I would really encourage you to see it. You'll learn so much about the land here. Every artist took a different section of land, an area in Calgary, and wrote a piece and performed about it. And they created this wonderful film. So I don't think of myself as an elder in the writing community, but I guess I'm old. I've been writing since 2004 more seriously. I mean, I wrote when I was younger, and I'll talk about that later. But I also had the opportunity last summer to teach creative writing to some kids at a camp, a writing camp for kids called Youth Write. Director for that is Gail Sobat. And that is operated in Edmonton and at Bragg Creek through Calgary. And they have scholarships for marginalized youth, including LGBTQ people. And I also would like to add on the land acknowledgement. I also acknowledge that I stand on the blood, sweat, and tears of Chinese pioneers who came before me, that I might be Canadian. Sorry, I'm not getting teared up. And I have some pieces related to that. Maybe that's why I'm emotional, or because I haven't slept for 2 weeks. This is my third attempt to organize my 18 years worth of writing, and we're going to see a lot of posters and programs and things tonight. I think I have the foundation for my next play. As the event title suggests, there are both sweet and sour experiences in my journey to becoming a writer. And so I would love if in the chat, if you don't have a question, that's fine. But I would like to know what resonates for you, what you're interested in that I speak about or not interested in, because I do intend to develop this further. And of course, I only have time to read excerpts. In fact, I've asked for a time warning at 7:30, I think, so that we can get everything in. But I can only read excerpts from things. So some things you'll have to buy if you want to hear the whole thing. And this next piece is inspired by an incredible mural in Calgary's Chinatown. We call it Mural Alley because there's several murals there, but in fact, there's murals throughout Calgary's Chinatown. And this one it features a railroad. It's a tribute to the people who built the railroad, and it's made out of railroad ties, railroad nails. There's Chinese words in it. There's articles. It's kind of mixed media, and I really love it. So this is a little bit of a riff, and as I say, this is just an excerpt. It's called Railroaded. He is hoping hard at the dawn. He hates hoping hard at the dawn. He is hoping hard at the dawn and railroading his chinks. He hates running his chinks along the blood of the railroad. He hates he feels railroad. He feels rust. He feels the edge of hell. He is hard and rusting and hating. He hopes completion before rusting. He hates hoping about completion, hates hoping about rusting. He hates hoping about rusting completion. So that's an experimental piece. For those of you who aren't poetry lovers, there are more accessible pieces coming up. And that one is published in the Malahat Review, issue number 193. It's a special creative nonfiction issue. And I think I'm talking about it later. And it's edited by Lynn Van Leuven from the University of Victoria. And a shout out to Lynn. I'm shouting out to various people throughout the night. If you would like to learn more about Chinese Canadian history, a really good place to start is the Chinese Cultural Museum. There's a museum in the basement. A lot of people don't know that. I usually have my walking tours meet there or suggest they go there first. The display is called Our Chosen Land, and it focuses on the history of Calgary's Chinatown, the current location being the third Chinatown in Calgary. And this summer, the Chinese Cultural Center will have copies of my Discovering YYC walking tour booklet, which first came out as a CD, and then Patrick Teo, you gave me back your comp copy that I gave you, but you can get it back anytime. That was a project through Loft 112. Loft 112 is a creative space that just celebrated their 10th anniversary. They're located in East Village. They have cool writing projects and also visual opportunities for artists. And I answered the call for inner city stories, and that's how I got my first walking tour booklet published. And it's since been reprinted, and we're going to go into a third reprint. It'll be $10 at the Chinese Cultural Center. So I, in fact, just arranged that today with Tony Wong. Next up, Chinatown walking tours. I've been doing them since 2016 when a development proposal came forward on the largest parcel of undeveloped land in Chinatown, proposing a 31 or 30-story building in Chinatown. And at that time, and still, in fact, the tallest building in Calgary's Chinatown is 15 stories high. And so the community rallied against this proposal, and the city scheduled a meeting on the opening day of Chinese New Year's, and it was 2016 or 2017. It was quite insulting the way they handled that. But the city has since rectified their interactions with the Chinese community. And I would encourage you all to visit a website called Tomorrow's Chinatown. I've been on an advisory group for 2 years, and they've created a new area redevelopment plan as well as a cultural plan. That's a first for Calgary, consulting with stakeholders and members of the community. And they're looking for feedback on all this before it goes before council in the fall. So please visit Tomorrow's Chinatown. The walking tours that I did were through Jane's Walk, which is a program the Calgary Foundation offers. And it's to honor Jane Jacobs, who was an urban advocate, I guess you might call it, for urban centers. And I have a walking tour that can be listened to as a story, like just listen to it. It's beautiful. Or it can be followed along as a 40-minute self-guided tour through Chinatown. It was produced in 2020 by Jupiter Theatre in Calgary. You simply download the podcast before you head to Chinatown. This is an excerpt from Master Ugam's blessing.
In spite of the hard life he chooses for them, Master Ugam calls for his children, sit with him.
My children, the stream is but a trickle now, and the fire in the cave flickers. Soon I will no longer be able to provide for you. You must make your way to Gold Mountain. You have always been a double blessing to your mother and myself. I am sorry I have little to send you with but these tattered rags. Let me rinse them first in the stream. These silk scarves will keep you cool in summer and warm in winter. Each is decorated with half a swirl. One swirl is white, the other is black. In the middle, each swirl has a dot of the opposite color. Together they form a harmonious and balanced circle. In your honor, this symbol will be known as yin and yang, a perfect shape of harmony. The same, but different. Sometimes in life you must risk something valuable for the unknown. Take this pair of bamboo chopsticks that are now precious jade. When you get to the river, you must each throw one into the raging waters. It will turn into a long wooden bridge for you to cross to a place called Calgary. When you get there, find the Order of Ugam. It is a secret society where people from our area are obliged to help you. Share with them the proverb, Wai Sen Ki Lok. It means being charitable gives great happiness. Live an honorable life. I promise to forever watch over you. Even when I am no longer here on earth, you will know my presence by the 2 lions you see. They are protectors. They are always in pairs, a male and female. The female protects the people. The male protects the places of the people. I will be there through good and bad for you and your generations. I will wipe your tears when you're sad and hold your hand when you celebrate. My precious, precious children, I love you both.
Miss Yin and Master Yang follow their father's instructions. The Order of Ugam helps them find work, room, and board. Due to the completion of the National Railroad, there is less need for cheap labor, so Chinese are forbidden from certain industries. All that is left are jobs Canadians do not want. Miss Yin and Master Yang find employment in the Chinese community. Their pay is even less than working for the Canadians. Miss Yin learns English at the Chinese mission and translates letters and documents. Master Yang soon becomes manager of the Chinese market. His people skills are second only to his sister's. As time passes, the wooden bridge is replaced by a 2-level concrete bridge. It is decorated with massive lions that overlook Calgary. It reminds them of their father's promise. They feel safe and protected. But soon they are reminded they are outsiders in this country. Canadian authorities impose a toll fee to discourage Chinese from crossing the bridge. The fee is increased several times until it is the equivalent of 2 years' wage. Still undeterred, Chinese seek a better life in Gold Mountain. Eventually, the bridge is completely closed to the Chinese. It is during this dark period of history that Master Ugam passes away. Miss Yin and Master Yang cannot return to pay their respect. Separated, some do not see their families in China again. For others, it is decades. The bridge is closed for 24 years. Miss Yin and Master Yang are fortunate to be together. Though the Order of Ugam cares for them like family, now orphans, they have only each other.
And I would encourage you to try out that walking tour. Another opportunity I've had as a writer is publishing work through Calgary's Poet Laureates. I've had a couple of opportunities there. This is a beautiful coffee table book, and it was done during the tenure of Chris Demeanor, Calgary's first Calgary Poet Laureate. And it's called The Calgary Project, a city map in verse and visual, published by Frontenac House. And in fact, there's a George Weber photo on the page that I'm on, that my poem is on. And this is a found poem created by taking phrases from the plaques on the memorial benches along Sinlock Park in Calgary's Chinatown. And I'll speed this up a little. On the benches at Sinlock Park. Donated for your enjoyment in honor of our pioneering forefathers. In loving memory of our beloved father and grandfather, may we follow in his footsteps. Artist and philosopher, the Candy Apple Man, first generation Canadians, native Calgarians, proud Calgarians. Ever remembered with love and gratitude for immigration from China to Canada, well done, thou good and faithful servant who cared for our community. Another interesting project I did was through Loft 112 again. This was called Noir on 8th, an East Village mystery. It's available on Amazon, and it was also created during Chris Demeanor's tenure as Poet Laureate. It's edited by Dymphany Dronick. In real time, 12 Calgary writers wrote one chapter each. So each month, a new chapter would come out of a mystery novel, and each writer would have 1 month to respond to the previous chapter. Mine is chapter 8, which is great because 8 is the lucky Chinese number, and it's about a family in Chinatown. Other writers in the book include Cheryl Fogo, Aretha Van Herk, Clem Martini, Natalie Meisner, and sorry, I went too far here. Lisa Murphy Lamb, who is the director of Loft 112, Ian Williams, and Deborah Willis, sorry, there's a typo on her name there. You'll have to buy the book in order to find out what happens. There's a modern storyline intercut with a storyline from early Calgary. When I inherited my chapter, everyone kept referring to this package. And the editor was like, you have to say what this package is, this mystery package. So it turns out to be Chinese soup, an herbal tonic, Qingbo Liang. And the book concludes with a fascinating epilogue by historian Harry Sanders. I'm going to read one more poem, excuse me, related to the history of the early Chinese pioneers. It's published in something I'll show you at the end of the night, although I see it's already 7:23. I need to get quickly through some other material here. This is part of an e-program called iLit by McGraw-Hill Ryerson. Teachers can custom design their own books and have them published, and they order various works by Canadian writers. Each includes study lessons and activities for each piece, and the series includes fiction, poetry, drama. This is published in the poetry series. It's very short, no refunds. As far as my family can tell, my gong never paid head tax, but I know the Chinese paid in other ways and still do. I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up again. Yeah, when I think about the history in Chinatown and the Chinese pioneers, like we just owe them so much. And so this is actually a great time for me to talk about my family. I'm actually not a Kwong, and none of my relatives are Kwongs. When my grandfather arrived in 1885, presumably just before the first head tax of $50 was imposed, authorities didn't realize Chinese say their name backwards. So Ing Shu Kwong became Mr. Kwong when in fact he was an Ing. And I published my first poem is actually about my grandfather. I couldn't actually find the book, but it was in Canadian Literature, a literature magazine. And I was taking poetry classes at the U of C. And in case you didn't know and you're an emerging writer, or even if you're not, you can take creative writing classes at U of C. They are all offered in the evening specifically because they hope to attract regular people, like not just English students. And I found, you know, being with the young people, at that time I was in my 40s, really invigorating. Although if I have to read one more story about the metaphor of brewing coffee, I think they all had part-time jobs at Starbucks or something. Probably kill myself. I have to hear one of those again. But the feedback was so good because even the feedback is being graded. So versus taking writing at a community, like I fully support Alexander Writers Center Society, for example, but the feedback at U of C is of very high quality, I would say. So this is in the Malahat Review. I'm going to read the whole poem, and it's also found online if you search for it and you know how to search for it. It's a little tricky, but it's called Shu Kwong. Barely 16 in 1885, Gong Gong leaves Tim Sum village in southern China to be a foreigner in Canada. Arranging passage across the Pacific, deloused, debriefed, and quarantined in Victoria, his Chinese name registered backwards, trekking barefoot across the Monashi Mountains, mining for gold in Cherry Creek after white men stripped it first. What compelled him to settle in Vernon, BC, build a general store with rooms above for his family, 2 wives and 15 children? Bartering with Indians and Chinese farmers, stocking everything from pelts to luggage, he faithfully sends money overseas. His big treat every few weeks or so, bulk cracker crumbs and watered down condensed milk, savored like Peking duck. At 60, his liver fails. Chinese countrymen cannot call, absent by act of legislated exclusion. From his grave, perhaps, grandfather hears those present few and the mournful tones of the Salvation Army band. And I have to say, I've always kind of regretted those last 2 lines a little, but I've never changed them. It was my first poem, and Larissa Lai edited it. She's at the University of Calgary now. My grandfather was actually quite a respected businessman in Vernon's Chinatown. He had several businesses. And I was told like a lot of people showed up for his funeral, but in the poem, it sounds like no one did, but that's not true. If you pass through Vernon, they have murals there, which I always love. And our family discovered my grandparents are featured on a mural in Vernon. It's located near City Hall, where there's displays there. My uncle's actually in the Sports Hall of Fame there. But the artist probably found them on an archive photo. We actually tracked down what photo it was from. So in the 1960s, Chinese were able to change their names back, and my family never did. I just want to quickly say a lot of Chinese families don't have their I don't know what you call it, their Western name isn't necessarily the same as their Chinese name, because they came over on what were called as paper sons and paper daughters. And that's during the exclusion years, merchants were allowed to immigrate, and it was a very small number, but people would pretend to be somebody's son or daughter and come that way. And so many people ask me if I'm related to Normie Kwong. In fact, he's not a Kwong and I'm not a Kwong, but our families know each other. I grew up with, them knowing who they are. But I am related to Larry Kwong. And Larry Kwong, if you've never heard of him, shame on you, shame on the NHL. Larry Kwong was the first person to break the race barrier in the NHL. And this is a book by Paula Johansson. And if you're on Facebook, you can join the Larry Kwong Appreciation page, which is run by Chad Soon. Shout out to Chad. And Chad had a student who started a petition, and Larry got inducted to the BC Sports Hall of Fame, thanks to Gavin. I'm sorry, I forget your last name, Gavin, but he's an incredible young man. I think he's moved on to skiing now. I also, have a relative who is featured in this book. called YYC Pop. And I apologize to the technicians running this. My script actually runs out on this page because this is as far as I've prepared, but I have all these materials over on my wall and I'm going to get to them. But there is a poem here. Sherry D. Wilson did this during her tenure. And the poem is called On Mount Royal Campus. And I'll just read you the first line. There's a building named after my cousin. So on Mount Royal campus, there's a building named after my cousin. And you're going to have to buy the book or go to Mount Royal to figure out which that is in, like which building it is. I won't tell you. So let me just scoot over here. I'm going to grab these little treasures. They are from 1973. I'm not going to read them. I was actually going to read one, but we're tight for time. 1973 and 1975. These are typed on manila paper, which is what we used back in the 70s. There was no whiteout back then, so I had to type them perfectly. And I was kind of a practical kid. Like for Christmas, I would, let my hair grow really long. And then at the last minute, I would cut it and say it was a Christmas present. So these are mounted on cardboard and some of them are framed on aluminum foil. And they're poems I gave to my family. They're really hokey. I really have to read a little bit of one. Something of great value is a dad. When you don't have one, you become sad. So I am glad to have a dad. But it was an early indication that I would become a writer. And so my early history is that, I missed one anecdote. I posted a photo on Facebook. I'm sorry I can't show it to you. In 1963, I was, and it's in an email from Louis B. Hobson, Eileen Higgins ran a theater company in Calgary, Something Singers, and they used to do a production of The King and I at the Jubilee. And little 3-year-old Dale in diapers would come out on stage to applause every night and steal the show. And I believe that's why I ended up in theater, and I have a terrible memory, so I couldn't become an actor, although you will see me acting later. But that search for applause, like as genres go, there's just no thrill like playwriting. I mean, I write essay, poetry, short fiction, creative nonfiction. And oh my God, when actors take your words and they come out of your mouth with their mouth with a completely different interpretation than perhaps you had written them, it's so thrilling. And theater is collaborative, like there's no competition. Well, there is, but people work together because they all care about the art of acting. So you writers out there, give it a try. I'll send a shout out to Alberta Playwrights Network, which has helped me develop many plays. Trevor Ruger is the executive director there, and he has directed several of my workshops, and he directed my play, but we'll get to that. So my mother died. I was born and adopted at birth, and my adoptive mother died when I was in grade 2, and we moved to Chinook Park. And this is a postcard. I'm sorry, it's glaring a bit because it's inside a little frame here. And I'm going to read this. It's from a project from Loft 112. There's Loft 112 again. And this is an exhibit called Cards for Community. I wrote 3 postcards, one about North Haven, one about Chinatown, and this one is about Chinook Park. It's called The Barn House. Wow, and it's really small. I have to take my glasses off. I was in grade 2 when my mother passed away, and my father dealt with it the best he could. He took his 2 young daughters to Disneyland, and in the summer, we moved from Wildwood to Chinook Park. There were 2 homes for sale that summer of 1968, and I've often wondered why he chose the Craig Road house that looked like a barn instead of the pagoda-style home on Churchill Drive. The pagoda seemed suitable for the first Chinese family in the neighborhood. Perhaps he knew the great memories our family would create in that barn house. It delighted me to tell people my bedroom was located in the hayloft. I love lying in bed, gazing at the purple floral wallpaper on the ceiling. The pink rug was chosen to make me feel warmer, although I don't know that that worked. My cousin got stuck in the laundry chute, and I once tried to break in through the milk chute. The backyard was huge. I created a summer hideaway for myself amongst the lilac bushes that were as big as trees. And in the winter, my sister and I made tracks to play fox and hound. I once carried my banana seat bike up and down the stairs, at that time it was, of this green pedestrian bridge to cross 14th Street to go to Eagle Ridge. It's the same route I walked to my first job at Rocky View Hospital, just beside the trail to sneak into Heritage Park. There are two memories I wish I didn't have. In grade 12, I awoke from my after-grad party to see the truck unloading a safe on the driveway. I later learned my father's business, Foodvale Stores, had burned down the night before, the night of my grade 12 grad, and the safe needed to cool down before it could be opened. And on the first day of grade 3, when we moved to Chinook Park, at Chinook Park Elementary School, a kid, an immigrant kid in my class, sat on a metal railing and sang, "Chinky, chinky, Chinaman." And there's more to that, but I won't say the rest. It's the first time in my young life I experienced racism, but I never forgot it. And it was the end of my childhood. And I will also mention that I ran into that fellow. I've used that anecdote in my writing, and I ran into him at my 40th reunion, my 40th high school reunion 2 years ago, and he called out to me like you wouldn't believe, and I completely ignored him. So if you're watching, I want you to know that those things hurt, they go deep, and we don't forget them. And they're microaggressions. So when you talk about racism, that is an example of one. It's 7:37 and we have a lot of videos to get through. I'm just going to jump right to the next video, which is May's Dream. Hang on here. So May's Dream is a project I was invited to do by the EPCOR Center. Grizel, I forget her last name, I just forgot it. And Javier, I can't say your name correctly, Javier, directed it. It was a community event where many people from the community were involved. There was text and then performance and text. A lot of my work tends to have this sort of two threads going through it. And that's partly because of a workshop I did at the Banff Center, which also has wonderful programs for writers. It was a Utaniki workshop by Fred Waugh. And Utaniki is a Japanese style of poetry where they incorporate narrative and poetry. And my takeaway from that, and I spoke to Fred later and I told him my interpretation. He said, well, that's not really what Utaniki is, but it served me well. What can I say? That even if you took two pieces of writing that are about two subjects and you cut them up and you just interplay them like that, that creates friction just by being together on the page. There's already friction there. And so, yeah, that's about the Banff Center. And this is my intro to May's Dream. I'm helped out by my friend Catherine Yong and her wonderful family that fed me, and the first couple times we read it with her brothers, Aiden and Vincent, and her dads are Eric and Bill. So if you guys could play May's Dream, I'm going to figure out what's next.
Auntie Dale made a story about a little girl named May, and me and Auntie Dale are going to read it with you. May's Dream by Dale Lee Kwong.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named May who wore her hair in two little pigtails. She was born in China, but now she lives in a city much like Calgary, Alberta. Mei Mei lives in a house on top of a hill with a view of the mountains and a river which runs below. It's just Mei Mei and her mama in that house on top of the hill. Mei Mei doesn't have a father or a sister or a brother, but she has a dog named Bo, a cat named Jangles, and a goldfish with bubble cheeks she calls Double Bubble.
My name is Maymay. I love noodles. I love rice. I love to rhyme, and sometimes I say things twice. I love going to Chinatown and sometimes to the zoo. Every night I love to play my Chinese erhu.
Mei Mei is a happy girl. Her pigtails bounce when she runs. She's especially happy on days with Chinook winds because that's when she and Mama fly her Chinese kite.
My kite and I have flown into the sky so blue to frolic in clouds and see sights that are new. In my dreams, my kite and I soar to the African plains where the lions roar. Those lions don't make me flinch, nor do the birds who coo. Down under the Australia, I see a jumping kangaroo. Her little Joey pops up from her pouch and says, "Boo!" I do not bat a brow when I say boo-hoo.
Mei Mei loves her mama, her dog named Bo, Jangles the cat, and Double Bubble the goldfish. But for as long as Mei Mei could remember, she longed for a sister. In Chinese, Mei Mei means younger sister. So Mei Mei always hoped she might have an older sister.
Someone to protect me from bullies in the schoolyard. Someone who will always let me win when we play cards. Someone to share secrets with. That's what I yearned. And in my search for her, there's a lesson that I learned. I imagine I a sister with black hair and brown eyes, which turn red whenever she cries, like when we hug and have to say goodbye. At least that's what I fantasize. My name is Maymay, and this is my tale about the time my kite and I took a great big sail from the house on a hill where I live with my mother, looking for someone to call my sister or brother.
Mei Mei wonders if perhaps her sister lives in China, so she often asks Mama if she can go there to visit. But Mama says to wait until she's older.
Wait? Don't you just hate waiting? That's hesitating. It's positively irritating. Adults make kids wait all the time, hold their breath, and count to 9. Wait for a story, wait to play, wait to open present till your birthday. On the night before Christmas, when all through the houses, not a creature is stirring, not even the mouse. Santa is coming with gifts, and children ask, when? Like Mexican children waiting for their 3 wise men. Or the night before summer vacation, we kids just can't wait to start the celebration.
One night, Mei Mei is too excited to sleep, even though she's wearing her favorite red silk pajamas.
How can I possibly go to bed? There's so much happening inside my head. Thinking about the very next day, and all the fun I'll have at play. Mama says we'll go to Chinatown and eat noodles for breakfast and then look around. She promises to buy me a brand new kite. Oh, I just can't wait for that first test flight. Sleep still won't come, so I asked Mama to explain. How is it? I came to live with her, and won't she say again? That's she she will never leave me no matter what. Even if I grew a third nose and live in a hut, no matter where I go in this great big world, she says she'll never lose me. I'll always be her girl, as faithful as the moon that rises in the sky. Mama says she'll always find me when I cry. I don't grow in her body, I grew in her heart. Mama says nothing to ever say or I ever say or do will tear us apart. And then she sings a lullaby, a sweet, simple song. I could listen to her singing it all night long.
Mama kisses Maymay and puts the kite beside her on the bed. Maymay falls into a deep, deep sleep. And in her dreams, she and her kite visit Hangzhou, the city where she was born.
All around me, there are children everywhere, just like me. They have brown eyes and black hair. They speak Mandarin, but I can understand them. Sometimes language isn't needed between friends.
We haven't enough time to share the whole story, but eventually Maymay meets Jie, a Chinese orphan who teaches Maymay about Chinese culture. Maymay asks if they can be sisters, but Jie explains they already are.
Well, someone may seem different at the start. Below the skin, there's no way to tell us apart. Every girl is my sister. Every boy is my brother. It doesn't even matter if we share the same mother. For when we look into a stranger's heart, finding a familiar is what makes you smart. When we celebrate our culture, whether different or same, we celebrate one another no matter a place or name.
Jie invites Maymay to have dinner with her at the orphanage in Hangzhou, but Maymay realizes she must get back to Calgary. As Jie explains that the moon she sees in China is the same moon Maymay sees at home, the little girls hug. But the wind blows harder and harder until it blows them apart. I'll read the rest of the story. In the morning, the wind flutters the bedroom curtains. Mama wakes Maymay saying it's time to go to Chinatown. They'll have noodles for breakfast and buy a new kite. Mama promises the weather will be perfect for flying. And Mama and Maymay and Bo and Jangles and Double Bubble live happily ever after.
The end.
That was Catherine's first professional, semi-professional performance, public performance. And she's come so far from our very first reading. I'm so proud of her. And that intro was completely ad-libbed. It actually made me tear up as I started. So thank you so much, Catherine, and your whole family, and for doing that. That was so wonderful. I'm just going to backtrack for a second because I did skip a whole section that I can summarize quite quickly. My very first published writing was in the travel section of the Calgary Herald back when it was a more substantial newspaper. And it was based on a vacation I took in 1984. And I'm actually kind of embarrassed when I read it back because I ended up living in China in 1986 and 87 with my best friend, Carol Poon. Shout out to Carol and my godson, Solomon, and Victoria, who did the graphics. And yeah, so those experiences shaped me a lot. And one of the reasons I wanted to go to China is because in some ways, being adopted, the only thing I felt like I really honestly knew about myself is that I was Chinese. Like, it was undeniable. I was raised in a Chinese Canadian family, thank goodness for me. But I held tight to that information. And the other thing that I'm really going to skim over, which is was planned already, but I have spent 26 years, was my last longest job, was with Global Calgary. And I was a news editor. I started just after the Olympics when I came back from Calgary. And it was not planned at all, but news editing isn't quite what you think. In those days, it was called ENG news editing, electronic news gathering. And I was the person who met with the reporter and took the footage and their voice and created a news story every day. So for 26 years, I sort of honed the craft of storytelling. And I had other opportunities as well, but I did not know how that would serve me later. And that was a wonderful day job to have. I don't have a traditional theater career trajectory as some artists do. I never went to drama school. I never even took drama in high school. In my grade 12, last year of high school, I attended the very first Stage 1 reading. And that is a program that Lunchbox has had, Lunchbox Theater, for more than 40 years. And I just saw in the chat, someone wrote, Chinky Chinky Chinaman. Yeah, it hurts. Anyways, so seeing that Stage 1 reading really was in the back of my mind. And one day I had my first play produced at Lunchbox, and what a thrill that was. So, but also when I was at Global, I had the opportunity through a show called The Movie Show that Larry Day used to produce to do some movie junkets where you go and people interview the actors one-on-one for you get 5 minutes with each actor. And so I just recently found, I have to show my photo, a young Dale and a young Harrison Ford. And who else do we have? We have a young Dennis Hopper and a young Kiefer Sutherland. There's Kiefer. So yes, I'm going to go right into my plays right now. And the first one I wrote, when I retired at Global, they did give me this. I was on a committee called the Mosaic Committee, and this is back in the early 2010, 11, 12. And diversity was just sort of starting to become a thing. And I always had celebrated Chinese New Year's at the station. And the year I left, hired a dragon boat, a line dance team that went to every single department at Global. And there was siu choy hanging down because I set it up the night before, and it went and it ate the siu choy and threw lucky candy. And it was a fantastic sort of going away present from Mike Omelin. I forget his last name. He was the GM at that time. And related to Mei Mei's Dream, I had an opportunity through Quest Theater to do a play a couple of years ago. It was a residency at Highwood School, which is Mandarin speaking. And we created a Chinese New Year's play. They published photos that I took and gave me this wonderful book of memories. So yay, Quest Theater. So in 2006, I wrote my first play, and you weren't allowed to take notes in with you. What I snuck in was a couple of fortunes. I like to use fortunes as writing prompts from fortune cookies. And in my play, there's several times where you hear fortune cookies, and most of them are real, they're from real fortune cookies. And I'm going to introduce the first, yes, I forgot to mention, my first paid gig reading professionally, I got $50 in 2008 when McNally Robinson was here, and Sharon Paul Rupri, who was a former writer in residence at the U of C, and now she's head of the English department at the University of Winnipeg, I want to say, somewhere in Manitoba. She hired me and I read a piece called Aya. It was a monologue. It didn't really go anywhere. And on the first day of my workshop for this play that I had, I needed something to start the play, and I didn't really know, like I needed to set up like Asian culture. So this is the opening scene from my play, Aya, Sweet and Sour Secrets.
The opening scene from Aya, Sweet and Sour Secrets by Dale Lee Kwong.
Aya is a multi-purpose Chinese word. It can mean just about anything you want, based on the brevity or the length of the I and the ya.
A slight change of inflection in tones discussed. Ay-ya!
Add a joyful laugh, and you're reflecting on your own stupidity, knowing humility is honored in Chinese culture. Ay-ya!
Someone take last parking space in Chinatown? Throw in hand gesture for polite swearing. Ay-ya!
When you're a teenager and your parents make a fuss about you being too confident or boastful like the lo fan,
White people.
a pouty ay-yo is definitely in order.
It's a mystery to some how in a tonal language like Chinese, the words ay-ya can be pronounced in virtually any tone, every syllable changed. But
Still, it makes sense to anyone near its utterance.
There's an ancient Chinese saying, what the eye does not see, the heart cannot mourn.
time to open your eyes.
Ay-ya, time to get going. So I had this article that was in the Herald, I believe it was, or yeah, it's still called the Herald. And that's Trevor Ruger, my director, who directed the play. And then I adopted an artist, which is a program they have at Lunchbox Theater that I want to give a shout out to, Bronwyn Steinberg and the folks over at Lunchbox. So when my play was on, I had adopted Kelsey Verzotti, and you get to go for lunch with the artist and the artistic director. And you also get to attend the first reading of the script on the first day, which of course I was there as the playwright anyways. But that production was a wonderful experience for me as a writer. I went to as many of them as they would let me, because you learn so much hearing where the audience laughs or doesn't laugh, or things that land. And yeah, there were pockets of laughter because there's lesbian, LGBTQ jokes, there's Asian jokes. And when my family came, there are some Kwong jokes that only my family knows. And so that was super fun. And so after that successful run at Lunchbox, I was like so hooked. And I was trying to write a sequel to the play. And I didn't really know what happened to Jade after she came out to her parents. But there's a line in the play that refers to something in my life, which is in an essay, I forget where. But when I came out in real life, this was in 1993. So you have to give me a little bit of credit. It wasn't like last year, but like I didn't have any role models. I didn't know there were gay Asians. And I thought I wasn't a lesbian because I was not a vegetarian. And all the lesbians in my life, which was somebody from work, Brenda Bowes, and Katie Lang, who's not in my life, but I knew of her, they were short brunettes who were vegetarians. And I thought, well, then I guess I'm not a vegetarian because I'm not a lesbian because I'm a vegetarian. And anyways, there's a reference to Jade going on this gay cruise. So in 2019, I workshopped Aya, Face the Facts with Lunchbox Theater through stage one again. Thank you, Lunchbox. I've had 3, I think, workshops there so far. And a workshop is a chance for the playwright to play. Like that Aya scene, the first day when I brought it in, I assigned it to different actors. I switched it around. It was like so much fun. It's like playing with dolls, but they're real people and they're alive and they bring emotions and different interpretations to your words. And so I wrote this prequel to the play, which was called Aya, Face the Facts, and it was produced as a podcast the same year the pandemic started. It was actually just a coincidence. A company in Edmonton, the people involved are mostly from Concrete Theatre. They had a project called the Queer Calendar Project. So they posted 12 podcasts over the course of 12 months. And mine was like posted that summer. And this is an excerpt from Aya, Face the Facts.
From Aya, Face the Facts by Dale Lee Kwong.
What's with all this rainbow stuff you brought?
It's free from the orientation and mixer.
That was fast.
It's still going on, but most people left to hit the karaoke club. Here, I grabbed your orientation package. This is the info for excursions, and save the paperwork for the long lineups to get on the ship. Pack a day bag with your toiletries, swimsuit, and outfit for the white party.
White party?
Then all you need is this singles bracelet, and you're all set.
Singles bracelet?
Oh, yeah. Some people are already pairing up. Shall I help you?
What is this thing?
Your singles bracelet. All the singles wear them so they don't waste energy flirting with someone who's already in a relationship.
Isn't it obvious who the couples are?
Things are not always as they seem.
I'm not looking to meet anyone.
Oh? Everyone on the lesboat just assumed you're single. Some wondering more than others, if you know what I mean. Are you single?
I'm kind of seeing someone.
Oh, for how long?
Since junior high.
Wow, that's crazy.
Our families are friends, so really our parents introduced us.
No kidding, that's progressive. What's her name?
Robbie?
And what does she do?
You mean he, right? Like Robbie, short for Robert?
Robbie's a guy.
What else would he be?
He's your beard.
He can't even grow a mustache. He's Chinese too.
No, you know your cover?
My cover?
You know, in the closet?
What closet?
Oh, you are out.
Out?
As a lesbian.
I'm not a lesbian.
Wait, what?
What makes you think I am?
You're on a lesbian dragon boat team.
I am?
Oh, come on. The team name is the Lesboat.
Because it's a spoof on that 70s show, The Love Boat.
Well, there's that, but also the spin on lesbian.
I've never thought that.
And our team motto? Stroke, stroke, stroke.
So we row in unison.
Oh, I never thought of that.
So it's a lesbian dragon boat team, and I'm not a lesbian, and I'm on a lesbian cruise. Is any of this a problem?
Of course not. You know I'm a lesbian.
You are?
It's just that Arden posted this trip in the team's Facebook page. It's a cruise programmed for lesbians. Didn't you check the website?
I scanned it quickly.
Did you see the photo gallery?
The food looks awesome.
You didn't notice anything about the participants?
Like what?
It's all women in all of the photos.
I was quite rushed, but some of the activities caught my eye.
Like what?
Zip lining.
The tandem ziplining?
There's dance classes and scrapbooking.
Scrapbooking?
10 ways to improve your scissoring. And pottery classes.
The pussy pottery?
Yeah, like puppy yoga, goat yoga, right?
No, it's recreating the pottery scene from the movie Ghost. Did you notice the theme of the cruise?
Come on out and be your best self.
Come on out?
Come on out and enjoy the cruise.
Wow. You really didn't know this was a lesbian cruise?
Of course not.
Well, that explains you missing my signals.
Signals. I am always in time with the crew. Stroke, stroke, stroke.
I'm just saying this explains a lot of things. You have terrible gaydar.
That's a real thing?
Yes, yes it is. And you don't seem to have it, my friend. Looks like I'll be your personal Wikipedia for all things lesbo. Here's your first lesson. On a lesbian cruise, everything's geared for lesbian clientele, from the food to the entertainment to the activities. There will be weddings, couples massages, vegan cooking classes, lesbian speakers, and entertainment featuring all the first name only famous lesbians: Rosie, Ellen, well, actually Ellen's mom Betty, Martina, and Tegan and Sarah.
I love Tegan and Sarah. They're from Calgary.
There are no dudes on the boat except for staff, so you can boss them around. And best of all, the men's washrooms have been reclaimed with flower bouquets in every urinal.
Can straight people go on this cruise?
It's inclusive to all women.
So I don't have to pass any tests?
Oh, you're already passing.
What?
Never mind. So, you're straight.
Of course, everyone knows there aren't any gay Asians.
You've never heard of Gaysians?
What?
Gaysians. Asians that are gay.
Oh, that sounds like fake news to me. Those gays are spreading rumors.
Those gays? Hey, you okay to go on this cruise?
As long as I don't break any lesbian rules, I really need a vacation.
Then don't wear the singles bracelet unless you want people hitting on you.
Well, I don't mind a compliment or two. It's been a dry spell.
Well, you are adorable. That's your first compliment.
The white party you mentioned, it's not racist, is it?
Oh, of course not. You've never heard of a white party?
Should I have?
I suppose not. It's a tradition that started in South Florida during the AIDS crisis. The organizers hoped the all-white clothing theme would raise awareness and donations for HIV and AIDS research. A white party on a lesbian cruise is like a coming out party. Some guests are from countries where homosexuality is a crime, but on the ship, they're safe to be their true selves.
Can I just get a doctor's note to excuse my absence from this party?
No, you're coming with me. So, ready for my bikini fashion show?
No, I mean,
Shall I model my $500 bikini now?
No, I have to, rain check. Cruise check.
Sure. We have all week. You okay? Remember, in the LGBTQ acronym, Q stands for queer, but it can also mean questioning.
Questioning what?
Questioning their... You need a wake-up call.
I don't even have time to sleep. I have to finish this promo for work.
Okay. Forget anything else? I have a blow dryer, but no flat iron. My hair used to be straight, but it must have been a phase.
Sorry?
It's a joke, Jade. I'm going dancing.
Well then, I'll keep walking on my promo. See, I can tell jokes too.
Okay then. See you bright and early in the morning.
Oh my God, I'm on a lesbian cruise with Jennifer, my secret crush. There's gonna be bikinis, boobs, and bums. Ay-ya! So in the workshop that I had with Lunchbox on the third day, so Sweet and Sour Secrets, which was the one that ran there first, it was not like 100% autobiographical. I actually never came out to my dad. That experience is in one of my essays, but the spirit of coming out to my family was kind of in that play. But what I discovered in doing the prequel is that Jade had a boyfriend. I didn't know that, and I've never had a boyfriend, and so that was kind of new to me. And so a big shout out to Ben Wong, who's actually going to be playing Charlie in the next scene, which is coming up. And Ben played Charlie in Lunchbox's premiere production. And we originally were going to have the actors read live tonight, and we ended up having to pivot and pre-recording their scenes. And in that process, Daniel Fong, who had agreed to play Robbie, was busy. So we ended up needing a substitute, and I had to look no further than Ben's own son, Sebastian, who's going to play Robbie. And so when I cast these scenes, I've always known it's always been difficult to cast my plays because there's so many Asians. And when I started writing in 2006, there really was not much depth in the Asian acting community in Calgary. Maybe there were some in film, but not in the theater community. And thanks to things like Chromatic Theater, shout out to Jenna, who I think just left them this year, but she founded it. And Chantal Hannah's in the audience. She was involved with Chromatic. But there are now more Asian actors in Calgary, and there are more opportunities for them. So this is my introduction to Aya Chop Suey. And I would also like to mention that I put Act 1 and Act 2 together and submitted it to Alberta Theatre Projects for their playwrights unit. And it was a really mixed blessing because at the time, Darcy Evans was the artistic director there, and that he personally interviewed me and said he couldn't imagine having the unit without me. And then 3 months later, he passed away, and he was a mentor. And at the end of the program, just before my reading, in fact, 3 weeks before my reading, my other really big mentor and friend in my life, I used to walk my dog with her, Sharon Pollock, passed away. And that's how my ATP Playwrights experience went. And I had a postcard there to show you. But I would like to shout out to Chris Stockton, who, when I was at Lunchbox, made this on opening day, and he gave us all these sweet and sour jars, which was hilarious. So this is a revised scene, the dinner scene from Aya Chop Suey.
From Aya Chop Suey by Dale Lee Kwong. The doorbell rings.
Are we expecting somebody?
Yes, apparently Robbie is joining us for dinner.
What? Robbie, what are you doing here?
Nice to see you too, Jade.
You're supposed to be busy.
Sorry, my mom told your mom I was free. Just play along.
Jennifer's here. You play along.
Robbie, don't just stand there. Take off your shoes and come in. This is Jade's friend, Jennifer. Jennifer, this is Robbie.
Robbie is Jade's boyfriend from grade 8.
Is that so?
I've heard so many nice things about you, Jennifer.
Wish I could say the same.
Kong hey, Miss Wong. I brought your favorite canned abalone. Mr. Wong, could you please get 2 pieces of bread?
For what?
To make abalone sandwich.
LOL, buddy.
What? 3 cans? So expensive, Robbie. You shouldn't have.
Oh, no big deal.
Such a polite young man. Good catch, isn't he, Jade?
I thought you broke up after the cruise.
I did, but my parents don't know yet. Please play along.
Jennifer, Jade, Robbie, please come sit down.
Why are we eating on the mahjong table?
Some of our New Year preparation did not go as planned.
Jennifer, eat every grain in your bowl. You want husband with good skin.
Oh, I've no plans for a husband, good or bad skin.
Don't worry, dear. You have a pretty face. You marry someday.
Yes, but not to a...
Uneaten rice represents the number of pimples your spouse will have.
Made you finish every grain in your bowl.
We wouldn't want a zitty spouse now, would we, Jade? Robbie?
This sauce is delicious, Mrs. Wong.
I teach Jade when you marry. Help keeping you happy.
I'm sure it will take more than sweet and sour spare ribs to keep Jade's husband happy.
Jade kicks Charlie, thinking it is Jennifer.
Ow! Wow, Lillian, you have outdone yourself tonight.
Robbie, can I pass you anything?
I can help myself, Mrs. Wong.
Jennifer, are you enjoying the food?
Yes, I love Chinese food. Jade's introduced me to a lot of new restaurants, and I've introduced her to new things too.
Jennifer, try the spare ribs.
Please put something in your mouth.
Jade, why would boyfriend propose if you spend all your time with women?
Maybe I'm not ready for marriage.
Who you cook for?
I'm a healthy eater.
Charlie, what's wrong with you?
Nothing, dear. 恭喜發財啊!
To auspicious beginnings.
A good beginning make a good ending.
Then bad beginning make bad ending?
It depends. Like I say, Jennifer, you're a quick study.
How are you two meeting?
I deliver fresh char siu bao to Jade's apartment. Didn't know Jade would have a guest.
Sometimes I spend the night.
Not last night.
Mr. Wong, how's your new tennis racket?
Where do you sleep? Jade does not have 2 bedrooms?
Currently, I'm in the closet.
That's terrible. We have extra cot.
She's not actually in the closet, Mom.
But someone is, right, Bobby?
Are you in trouble, Jennifer? Problem with boyfriend?
Oh, no. No boyfriend, no husband.
Well, how old are you?
Almost 30.
Yeah, you better find boyfriend or you never have husband.
Is that how it works? Good to know.
Oh, I'm in a relationship, Mrs. Wong.
Jade tries to elbow Jennifer.
Has everybody tried the fish yet?
Very fresh, isn't it?
In relationship but no husband? No boyfriend?
Yes. Do you understand?
I think so.
See, Jade? I told you, your parents are...
You crazy cat lady. Post photos on Instagram. You cats have hats?
No, Mrs. Wong. I'm not attracted to men. I prefer women.
Me too. Best mahjong partners.
Perhaps, but I mean something else. I'm a lesbian.
Oh, how terrible. For your family.
I wouldn't know. They...
Don't live here. Jennifer's from...
Kinkora. Jennifer is visiting from Kinkora.
You will never give your parents grandchildren?
Mom, Jennifer can still have kids.
How disrespectful.
Excuse me?
After all their sacrifice, this how you thanking parents?
You don't know what they did or didn't sacrifice.
Jade, you should not spend so much time with Jennifer.
What?
You always follow crowd. She bad influence.
Are you for real?
Hiya! So disrespectful.
Jennifer is coxswain on Jade's dragon boat team.
Almost the whole team are lesbians.
Is that how you recruit?
No, Mrs. Wong. Nobody recruits lesbians. People are just living their authentic lives.
You bad influence, bad manners. You talking back. More than once. You should go.
Lillian takes Jennifer's chopsticks and starts clearing the place setting.
Jade?
Mom, don't be so rude.
I cannot celebrate Chinese New Year with lesbian.
Homosexuality isn't a disease. You can't catch it.
Well, I don't want any lesbians or homo in my home at Chinese New Year or ever.
I think it's too late for that.
Robbie, how about these ribs? You love sweet and sour.
And secrets.
Maybe not. Mrs. Wong, what would you say if I told you, hypothetically, that I'm a gay man?
Then I ask you to leave too.
Really? After all these years?
Chinese New Year very important. Robbie, you know that.
So is living your truth, respecting someone's journey, being inclusive to all people.
More rice, anyone?
Not for Jennifer.
And you should ask me to leave too.
Why ask you to leave, Robbie? Tonight, I suggest you set date for engagement.
There isn't going to be an engagement.
You see, Jade, Robbie wants to spend more time with you.
No, I don't. I also want a boyfriend who becomes my husband.
What?
Robbie, you don't have to explain.
Yes, I do. Mrs. Wong, I'm a gay man.
That's not true. You together since grade 8.
Robbie, let's go.
Do not ruin our Chinese New Year.
It's too late.
What's too late?
Jade, it's not too late. Please, wait.
No. It's too late for you to say you don't want any homosexuals in your home.
Yes, but not too late for them to leave.
Mom, you've had a lesbian in your home since the day I was born.
What?
You've celebrated Chinese New Year's with a lesbian all my life.
Do not say.
I'm gay too.
What? You are not gay. You eat meat.
What?
Lesbians don't eating meat.
In more ways than one.
You know, like Barbara Streisand.
How do you know so much about gays?
I watch Ellen too, and Dr. Phil. So Robbie's not right for you. Maybe you try Lofan or black.
I'm not going to bring a husband home, white or black.
Jewish.
No.
Hindi.
No.
Muslim.
No. No. No.
Why, you lesbian and racist?
No, Mom. No husband of any skin tone or religion because I love women.
Yeah, just because friends doing something you follow?
I'm not just following.
You don't know. Maybe this phase.
No, you don't know. It's not just a phase, it's my life. I've never been attracted to men.
You and Robbie lying since grade 8?
We didn't know. We were so young.
Charlie Wong, this is your fault.
What did I do?
You let her be a tomboy. Hockey not for girls. You should have put her in figure skating.
Like there's no gay figure skaters.
Who asked you?
Lillian, Jennifer is our guest.
Though uninvited.
I invited her.
This is family time.
Mom, Jennifer is family. She's my girlfriend.
You see, it's catching.
No, it's love.
You already have a girlfriend?
And I have a boyfriend.
Hiya! Nobody having grandchildren?
Is that all you care about?
I want to start a family.
It's possible. I saw it on TV. All they need is your turkey baster.
And some sperm.
I could help them.
Brings a whole new meaning to Thanksgiving.
Hiya!
So I'm really pleased to let you all know that I submit Aya Chop Suey to the Writers Guild of Alberta competition. And I am shortlisted for the Gwen Ferris Award for Drama, and that's being announced in June in Edmonton. So I had a totally different ending plan for this thing, and I know you guys want a Q&A, I'm told. I was going to get into my essay work. I see Betty Jane Hegeratz here. Betty Jane and I launched this book together. I think it was, I forget the year. Judy Warwick is here. She's in this also. There's 6 Alberta writers in this anthology of adoption essays, which was my planned ending. And I also had a piece by the same editor in A Family by Any Other Name, which is a kind of a queer anthology. And speaking of anthologies, queer anthologies, this is a queer poetry book that I had a piece in that I was going to end on, but we've run out of time, honestly. And if you liked my poetry, I will say most of it, or quite a large amount, like there's 8 pieces, I think, are in this book, Drifting Like a Metaphor. It's from Frontenac House. And it was during Micheline Naylor's tenure as poet laureate. And another gay project I worked on was a creation project with Third Street Theatre. This is how I left. But I told the people at the library I have to go pick up my dog because I normally have a friend in my building that will care for him during a thing like this, but I can be here till 8:35. So 10 minutes of Q&A. John, it's up to you now. Oh, sorry. One more thing I will mention, it's on the internet. If you Google Pecha Kucha, those are those things where you get like 10 slides and I don't know, 10 or 20 seconds per slide. I did a Pecha Kucha in Calgary, which is like kind of my whole story in 7 minutes and 40 seconds. So there you go. Okay, John.
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you for the excerpts from your plays there. That was really exciting to see. And when we were working on this together, you were mentioning that you had put this in, like you'd use this as a way to make your next play. So when could we expect that?
Play development takes a really long time. From my first draft until production, it was 12 years for Aya Sweet and Sour Secrets. Like I was a total newbie then, and then it was 2 years to the next one. So then my average was one play every 7 years, and then I had another one. So I think my averages are getting lower and lower. But I have in fact submit for this project, this play, which is telling my own life story. I've been trying to figure out how to tell it as a theatrical thing, to creation residency in town. And I also mentioned it to Lunchbox, but I already know by the time that it's too long for them. So when can you expect it? I have no idea. That's up to a lot of other people besides me.
A bit of a cliffhanger then. Okay. Early on, and I'll just open this up for everyone to, if you have any questions, please type it into the chat, just so it's easier to see it there for all of us. So far, there's been a lot of love in the chat for this and for your life story and the experiences you've shared. So again, thank you. Earlier on, there was a lot of questions about the books. And do you happen to have a book list that we could pass on to the participants later?
I did put in the chat. I ran out of time to list resources and books, but I do have this very unkept, very badly maintained writer page on Facebook. It's my full name, Dale Lee Kwong. And I promise in the next little while, I will post something in there. And I guess probably from the Chinook Historical Society, I've already forgotten her name. That lady will probably repost it for the Chinook people. And I'm so remiss in thanking, there is a slide, if we're able to put that up. I really want to thank all the readers tonight. None of them were paid. These were like favors I called in, but like they didn't owe me anything. I promised if I win the Playwrights Guild of Canada award that I just submitted to what I thought was 1 minute late, but was actually 2 hours early last night.
Oh, nice.
It has a $5,000 prize. So we'll all go for a 10-course Chinese banquet if I win that.
Well, best of luck on that. And they did amazing work. So
they did.
You're lucky to have friends like that. So
I'm not an actor, but those tears are real in my scene, actually.
Yeah. So we won't keep you too much longer here, so your dog doesn't get stuck in doggy daycare there. Do you have any, like, when is your next walking tour of Chinatown area or elsewhere in the city?
You know, my mom is 98, so I keep a really tight bubble. That's why this event is on Zoom. It was offered to me in person. Mm-hmm. And before even Omicron increased or whatever it was, I chose not to be in person. So I'm not doing any walking tours till at least next May. Okay. But as I said, there is a walking tour booklet that can be purchased at the Chinese Cultural Center starting when I can't even remember what I've said, but the cards for community exhibit from Loft 112 is going to be on display at the Chinese Cultural Center. I forget when. You can call and ask them. And during that time, they will have copies of the walking tour booklet.
Okay.
And I also want to mention 2 other walking tours of Chinatown. Lougheed House, which I completely escaped my mind because I didn't really get a souvenir from them. But last year, they invited submissions about Calgary's first Chinatown, because there's no artifacts remaining from Calgary's first Chinatown. And that exhibit was called We Were Here. And what it was 5 short stories written by local writers. I'm one of them. And we wrote these stories, imagined histories of Calgary's first Chinatown. That exhibit has been donated by Lougheed House to the Cultural Center. And I'd have to open the email. Tony told me, I think he said it's opening there in the fall. And but there, if you know how to search for it, and maybe I'll put this on the resource list as well, there's a QR walking tour. There's a QR code walking tour of Calgary's first Chinatown, but none of those places still exist. But you can stand where the smallpox riot was, where the Chinese in Calgary were blamed for bringing smallpox here, for example. And there's a short story about the first Chinese woman in Calgary, and a story about George Holem, who was a prominent Chinese person. So please, everyone, visit tomorrow's Chinatown, which is a City of Calgary initiative. And another walking tour that I've never even looked at, but I know it exists, is at the Sinlock Park website. So Sinlock Park was created when the City of Calgary, in their wisdom, wanted to put an 8-lane freeway from East Village through Chinatown, and they were going to call it the East-West Penetrator. And that's a true story. And the Chinese community rallied in 1967, 68, around then, against City Hall. In fact, it was the second time they had to rally, because when they wanted to relocate the current Chinatown to Chinatown, they bought the Canton Block. And James Short, alderman at that time, protested the Chinese because he had property, well, we surmise he had property where the Chinese Cultural Center is, and so he didn't want any Chinese in the area. And he did, they debate, was he or wasn't he a racist, because he did volunteer work at the mission, but I believe he was just trying to save those heathens. Anyways, there is a walking tour, a QR code walking tour at the Sinlock Park website. I've never done it, but try out Master Ugam's blessing, everybody.
Awesome. I think that's probably a good note to end things on here.
Oh, if I have a friend, I mean, I have several friends who are here. Can someone please copy and paste the CC transcript for me? Because I actually didn't have a script for the second half of this presentation. I just was ad-libbing. And it's 8:33, so I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to the people at the library, John and Catherine, who had to rein me in several times and caused me to pivot, but I think it all worked out fine. And oh my God, how could I forget Sam? Sam Hindle is here, my good friend who recorded all those. I was on the phone with Sam like 10 days ago. What am I going to do? What I'm going to do? We were trying to think of solutions. It was expensive to get a Zoom tech. And then at the very end, she's like, well, I guess I could record it. And I'm like, oh my God, would you? And so Sam, thank God for you. She called me last night when I was panicking about something else. I was having some confidence crisis. So I love you, Sam.
All right, well, have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, John.